back to Encyclopedia.zone. My name is Dr. Don Jolly. I am a freelance writer and the editor of Encyclopedia.zone, the internet's premier home for literary shitposting. Just point your browser over to Encyclopedia.zone. Check it out. We've got months of backlog updates. We've got promises for updates that have not materialized. We've got, in other words, all the best stuff from the great classic websites of the 1990s, and it is a perfect melding of shitposting and serious literature, and you're gonna fucking love it. We got poetry, we got comics, we got everything that you could want. So gonna start off with just a couple of updates here. So I have been getting back into my work routines a little bit more steadily over the last couple of weeks. I've got an excellent book review that I think that you guys will enjoy later on in this episode. We're going to be talking about Jurassic Park, both the books, the two books in the series, and the films. And I think that you guys will enjoy it. It'll be a nice little piece, and it's actually scripted. It's not just an off the cuff thing. I also want to just talk about like where things are going in general. I know that it's been a couple of months, which seems like forever in internet time, but I've been slowly putting my shit back together, and I am planning on doing yet another Mayhem update. Luckily, the Mayhem continues. We're going to do at least another Mayhem update, maybe another couple. On the zone. That's the next thing that I'm going to be working towards. The other thing is that I've decided I'm going to put a pin on my political writing. I'm putting together a final essay, last entry in the Hillary Clinton HRC 2020 piece. So I'm going to be working on that over the next couple of weeks, and I'll keep you updated. I think I might start talking about writing process a little bit more on the channel. So I'll keep you updated on that. And then ultimately, like, I've kind of decided that the direction I want to go with my work is I'm going to start trying to write some novels. And I've actually written 3 novels, none of which that I would consider any good. Definitely none that have been as successful as my nonfiction work, which is the most successful style of writing that I've worked in. But as I embark on this new endeavor, I'm going to keep you guys appraised, and I hope that you guys are interested to hear about it. The other thing is I wanted to say, if you're leaving comments down below the video, could you let me know if it's okay for me to read your comment on the show? Because as we're going forward, I think we're going to be doing one video a week, but I'd like to make that video as action-packed as possible. So I would like to have both a written review or shitpost or some kind of segment like that, and then I also want to sort of talk to you kind of think of it like a letter column. If you write something interesting in the comments and you let me know that it's okay for me to read it out loud, I might respond to you on the next show. I'm not going to respond to absolutely everybody, but if a lot of times you guys leave really good comments. And you want to start a discussion about something, and this is going to be a good way to do that, I think. And it's a little bit less intense than there's Max McDermott, who's an artist for the Encyclopedia Zone, just texted me to say there's a Gatorade flavor that tastes like Ecto Cooler. Good to know. You guys leave really excellent comments a lot of times that I think I might have a more complicated, that I do have a more complicated response to than it's really like feasible to type into a YouTube comment. The other thing is that, because I've been going through a lot of changes in my life this summer, it's gotten sort of difficult for me to maintain shit posting on the internet with the same frequency that I was doing it. Mostly I'm very focused on the real world at the moment, which has upsides and downsides. And I'm sorry if you're waiting on an email from me or waiting to get approved for the Zone forums, and I know that MChat is sort of dying out. I know that I've once again, 2 months in the real world is not a lot of time, but 2 months on the internet feels like forever. And I'm sorry if people feel like I'm letting them down with this thing. There's nothing to say for it except that I'm having to process a lot of new information and a lot of sort of stressful work that's come on across my desk that is totally unrelated to Encyclopedia.zone. But I'm going to get back onto MChat, get back onto posting. But I'm probably never going to be as present online as I was. Certainly not on Twitter and stuff like that, which really just drags me down every time I look at it, you know. So we're gonna together try to figure out a thing where, you know, obviously I want to keep this project going. I want to do it without totally falling into the internet. I think that the coronavirus thing has really accelerated a process that has been happening on the internet for many years, where it's sort of taken on the functions of a lot of what traditionally would happen in the real world, in the public sphere. And Corona has forced it to it's accelerated the process so that everything has sort of reached its end point instead of like a slow progression. And a lot of things that I really felt strongly about, like in terms of, you know, shit posting, political shit posting, like memeing, all that stuff that I found very interesting last year, now seems to have like exhausted itself and become ancient. Like the kind of, it is ossified. Online culture has ossified and become a mummy of its former self over the course of the last 6 months, because everybody has been forced to be online. Everybody has been forced to acclimate to the mechanisms of posting, and just the result is a mess. So on the upshot of it, the plus side is, if you're an artist and you're you know, a poster, you're somebody who wants to make interesting work and publish it, which, you know, pretty much basically means that you're going to be publishing it online, because I think for the foreseeable future that is still going to be the most accessible and the most you know, viable form of publishing that is open to us. Then I think you actually don't need to be that online of a person culturally anymore, which is sort of weird, because it's like, you know, obviously I project a very online persona. Like online culture has been a big part of like how I've built the DNA of the zone. But like, if everybody's online, then nobody's online. You know what I mean? It's only interesting if it's a subculture. And now that it's just culture, I mean, I think those of us who sort of see ourselves on the outside of whatever, you know, nightmarish calamity the mainstream is perpetuating on the world, I think maybe we should spend more time reading physical books, writing in our notebooks that Big Brother can't spy on, and figuring out how to engage with the internet in a meaningful way. I love everybody that I've met through the zone. I really appreciate you guys. I just want you to understand it's very difficult for me to be online at the moment, and it's getting easier for me to be on YouTube or something like that. But I'm suddenly very conscious of the fact that everybody in my family, all the men in my family, have cataclysmic heart attacks in their 60s, and I want to spend as much time in the fresh air looking at non-digital light as I possibly can. And it's something that I would recommend everybody out there, even the extremely online among you, do. I think that there's definitely a balance that can be struck between the real world and the internet, a productive balance. And in some ways, this coronavirus nightmare is good for that, because at least now, like, we don't have to fight on the internet's behalf. The internet just won while we were, you know, making other plans. And now that it's just culture, we are free to create new and more interesting permutations of our subculture, both online and off. So that's kind of an update where we're at right now. More stuff coming on encyclopedia.zone. Once again, sorry for the pause. Number 2, we're going to do one video a week. Let me know in the comments if it's okay for me to read your comment on the next show, and I might respond to you there. We're going to do like a letters section. And number 3, I guess that's about it. Oh, and if anybody has any suggestions on like workflow stuff, whatever, as you get into writing novels, I would be interested to hear that, because I'm going to be getting into writing more fiction. And I'm excited for everybody to come along on that fucking shitty adventure with me. Anyway, I've got a review here of Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton and its attendant multimedia franchise. So we're going to do that right now. Okay, word of warning, I do have a little bit of a cough. Not a coof, but a cough. So that's probably going to come up in this recording. I've tried it several times. I'm also going to be drinking water. Just like keep in mind if the rhythm is weird, that is why. Anyway, this is a review of Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton and its attendant franchise. In the first issue of cartoonist Steve Bissett's creator-owned dinosaur comic series Tyrant, published in 1994, Bissett offers a review of his competition. The year before, Steven Spielberg's mega blockbuster Jurassic Park, adapted from Michael Crichton's 1990 novel, was unleashed on a voracious movie-going public. It made millions and launched one of those nightmarish corporate mega franchises that continues to plague us to this day. Now it is called Jurassic World, and its most recent film is currently shooting. I just read an article about the safety precautions taken by its cast and crew to protect one another from coronavirus while they pantomime fear to the green tennis balls that will, at some time next year, be replaced by digital velociraptors. Bissett knew none of this was going to happen. To him, Jurassic Park was just a movie, highly successful, but certainly not cosmically important. His review goes like this. As a movie, JP is a shallow entertainment. Unlike Jaws 1975, Spielberg's seminal blockbuster which redefined and reinvigorated the monster movie archetype, JP is little more than an amusement park ride. Crichton's novel is an ingenious and tightly crafted pop science fiction thriller, but the screen adaptation lacks the novel's carefully detailed cautionary science, multi-layered suspense, and decidedly nasty streak. And Bissett is 100% correct. I was occasioned to revisit Jurassic Park, both the book and the film, thanks to a quirk of the collapse of chronology which has come along with our pandemic-inspired flight to the internet. As the global information network and its native platforms have assumed, in a matter of months, the cultural primacy which once belonged not just to old media, but to the social existence of the entire out-of-doors, it has become very apparent that we who post on it are something less than human. We are human expressions of inhuman calculations, products of a regular rhythm of information, all of which is to say that Netflix got the right to the Jurassic Park trilogy. It ended up on their top 10. As a result, all of my friends watched Jurassic Park, and over the following week, everyone began talking about it as if it was 1993 again. So Netflix made me watch Jurassic Park for the first time since I was a kid, and Netflix made me discover, to my disappointment, that it actually kind of sucks. My positive memories, as it turned out, were mostly from Crichton's books, which Netflix indirectly caused me to buy and read, making this review just another invisible after effect of some incalculable choice made by an inscrutable computer program, or, more hopefully, some cokehead executive whose house is about to burn down. I am a good boy, and I do as I am told, HRC 2020. Crichton's Jurassic Park novels, he wrote a follow-up, The Lost World, in 1995, are really marvelous little books. As literary works, they follow in the steps of writers like James Michener. They are informational bestsellers for the common man, their principal appeal being in marrying serviceable and diverting storytelling mechanisms, likable characters, compelling plot, satisfying tension most of all, with a bunch of good, reasonably vetted information. James Michener wrote about all kinds of topics, the Bible, Hawaii, different geographical areas. Jurassic Park is a story about people trapped on a malfunctioning dinosaur theme park, but it is also a primer on genetic engineering, focusing on this branch of science's relatively novel nature as a field of research spearheaded by the private sector, not universities and the government. It is probably the single most widely read introduction to modern paleontology, its only correspondent being the dreadfully out-of-date Lost World, original Lost World from 1912, written by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. It touches on computers, how they function, and as of the late 80s, how their interfaces worked, a topic much more exotic in 1990 than it is today. And most interestingly, Crichton uses the character of Ian Malcolm, Jeff Goldblum played him in the movie, to give readers an overview of chaos or complexity theory, the branch of higher mathematics given over to the study of systems so complex that they escape human control. Crichton's novel is popular literature. It's like popular music or the blockbuster franchise it inspired. It's meant to serve an audience of millions. It is interesting, however, that Crichton does not assume those millions of people to be idiots. In fact, the novel's base mechanism assumes that its mass audience is curious about mathematics, computers, paleontology, genetics, and that it wants to be entertained by grisly deaths, hairbreadth escapes, and a plot furnished with satisfying twists and turns. Crichton's The Lost World, which he described in interviews as being explicitly written for children, follows excuse me. He said it was written explicitly for children following Jurassic Park's remarkable success with that demographic. And The Lost World, Crichton's Lost World, proceeds from similar assumptions. It has plenty of dinosaurs and a good deal of action, but it also features fairly lengthy discussions of the tension between generalists and specialists in academia, and in the voice of the principles of engineering, and in the voice of in the voice of the returning Ian Malcolm. Crichton explores the esoteric aspects of evolution and extinction. The Lost World is not, strictly speaking, as good a book as Jurassic Park, but it reproduces its entertainingly didactic mechanisms, and it doesn't treat the kids reading it like morons. The film version of Jurassic Park assumes that its audience is stupid. It explains very briefly its cloning pretense, or its cloning premise, through a literal children's cartoon. It truncates Malcolm's dialogue from the book in such a way as to make complexity theory unrecognizable, a series of aphorisms which he mostly uses to hit on Laura Dern. Grant, the paleontologist, is a bearded bear of a man in the novel, and his central plotline is concerned with learning about dinosaur nesting habits. Ellie Sattler is his graduate student, not his girlfriend. Sam Neill, who plays the role in Spielberg's version, is a conventionally handsome leading man, paired with Dern's Sattler like Ken is to Barbie. His arc in the film is that at the beginning of the movie, he doesn't like kids, and by the end of the film, he does. The worst change, however, is visited on John Hammond, the charlatan investor who is the driving force behind the Jurassic Park concept. In the book, he is a cynical capitalist and representative of the insidious nature of research conducted according to the haphazard values of pure profit. In the film, of course, the director Richard Attenborough plays Hammond as an idealist, a man in love with the dream of returning dinosaurs to the world and insistent that they belong to the whole world and not just the super rich. Of course, Jurassic Park the film, itself a kind of hyper-expensive theme park attraction, would find noble purpose in Hammond's project. Steven Spielberg is very good at what he does, but his work has never evidenced any metatextual misgivings about the nature and effect of the blockbuster film, a pop phenomenon he and George Lucas invented for all practical purposes in the late 70s. In Crichton's bestseller, Hammond's mercenary attitude blinds him to the uncontrollable complexity of life. In Spielberg's blockbuster, Hammond's noble pursuit of spectacle leads him to forget that dinosaurs eat people, and by the end of the story, all he cares about is saving his imperiled grandchildren. The reason for this flattening of Hammond could definitely be explicated in a Marxist kind of way, but I think there's a much simpler explanation. The Jurassic Park movie assumes its audience is uncurious, that it is uninterested in anything besides spectacle, and perhaps even incapable of relating to anything other than the most broadly conceived emotional situations. Steven Spielberg, in other words, thinks you're a dummy. His sequel, also called The Lost World, makes this point even clearer. It completely removes all vestiges of the original novel's didactic content, producing a fluffy, characterless action spectacle with a climax featuring a tyrannosaur bloodlessly stomping around the suburbs of San Francisco. The movies just get worse from there. The most recent entry, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, is functionally incoherent. It features a single scene cameo from Jeff Goldblum, reprising his Malcolm character to blather about genetic power, which is presumably a term chosen because the people responsible for the film thought biotechnology was too esoteric for its audience to understand. Orson Welles once said that nothing is ever too good for the audience, and nothing has ever been good enough for the audience. One of his earliest projects, undertaken while he was still at the Todd School for Boys, was a series of illustrated editions of Shakespeare designed to help readers visualize the stories of the plays. Wells' belief was that a mass audience, if engaged honestly and in good faith, would love Shakespeare just as much, if not more, than Fibber McGee or the Lone Ranger. He wanted to entertain, and he did, but he always saw his audience, no matter its size, as being composed of curious, thinking individuals. Most mass entertainment seems to have a different point of view. Jurassic Park is now a sad phenomenon. Crichton's original books aren't high art, and they're not trying to be, but they still treat their mass audience with respect and balance their thrills with real scientific concepts. Spielberg and his degenerate successors see this audience only as passive marks, smooth brains with bottomless hunger for popcorn, and whose only other appetite seems to be for empty spectacle. Now, there's this other one, this additional Jurassic Park in production now. It is being made as we speak, safely, they assure us. The set has implemented technological safeguards that cannot fail. I saw a 30-second video Tom Cruise released this week on his Twitter account. In it, Cruise goes to the movies in London. seeing Tenet in a crowded room. Everyone is masked, of course, and Cruise assures us that it's safe. Safe to sit in a crowded room with recirculated air in order to watch the latest Christopher Nolan flick. The movies are back, Cruise says. Stop me if you've heard this before. A business dedicated to spectacular entertainment promises to control the natural world with technological countermeasures. Everything is fine, they say, because if it isn't, their amusement is going to lose money. Maybe go under. But it soon becomes clear that things aren't fine, that the entertainers do not control the biosphere, and people end up dead. Jurassic Park has gone from being a cautionary tale about people dying in the pursuit of hollow spectacle to the kind of hollow spectacle willing to kill people to preserve itself. Have John Williams write a theme song for that. Probably sell a lot of tickets. Anyway, that's all we got this week. I will see you next week. And remember, let me know in the comments if it's okay for me to read your thing on the air, and maybe I'll read it on the air next week. Anyway, namaste. Everybody have a great week. Quitting smoking sucks.